I think every kid would like to be cool in high school. Sometimes you just can see it. I used to be a high school teacher, as many of you know, before I was a priest, and I would look out at the kids and I would be like, oh, that kid is cool. You could see it. They were riding a wave of popularity, and it might have come from the fact that they were a real star athlete, or extra good looking, or maybe a whiz academically, or had a talent in music or some other area. But when you're in that group, you're treated kind of like royalty, high school royalty. When I was a teacher, every year in my homeroom, I would notice that there was at least one kid who was outstanding, but misunderstood. I would see that there would be at least one, sometimes more than one, who maybe had a talent that just wasn't appreciated by high school students. They were ahead of their time. Maybe it was that they had a style that was all their own, but it didn't conform to the way the other kids looked. Maybe they had a way about them, whatever it was. And I would always want to build enough trust with them that at least once I would be able to have a conversation with them that I really thought would be important for them to know. I wanted to say to them, I want you to know that I see you, and I see your way, or your style, or your talent. I see that it's not appreciated. And I want you to know this. Your best days are ahead. You may not be peaking now, but you'll peak later. And rejoice, because you don't want to peak now. It's not good to peak too early in life. We shouldn't peak in high school. That's not good. Early in our journey, we're going to peak and then go downhill from there. It's not good to peak early. Political campaigns know that. It's spooky when you're far ahead in the polls 4 months before the election. That almost doesn't feel good. It's not good to peak early. 4 months is a long time. In politics, a few days is a long time. Things can change very rapidly. If you have a wide margin now, you know you could lose it. In life, it's not good to peak early. And that's kind of what we're hearing in this gospel today. Jesus is saying, almost as if looking out at us and seeing some of the high school royalty listening, Jesus says, don't get too hung up on popularity. You don't want to put your trust in that. If you put your trust in popularity, which is totally out of your control, you could be sorry. Don't put your trust in money, he says. Money? It comes and it goes. Don't put your trust in that. If you do, you'll be sorry. Don't put your trust in everything going well for you. Don't put your trust in things working out just fine and dandy, because life isn't like that. And if you put your trust in that, you're going to be sorry. I think we can see in Jesus' own life what it means to peak late. There are no Bible stories of Jesus in high school. You don't get to hear about him earning a varsity letter. There are no stories about Jesus being popular. None of that. We know that the Bible doesn't really get started talking about Jesus' life until he's 30 years old. He didn't peak early. And then, at the pinnacle of his career, if you will, he's condemned and treated like a criminal. He didn't peak early. He didn't peak until after the cross. In Jesus' life, the best was yet to come. And if it's true that when we say he is the way, the truth, and the life, if we believe that, then we have to be honest about the fact that he wasn't popular, that he didn't own anything. There's no property that Jesus owned. He didn't have a will when he died. Jesus didn't have a lot of those earthly things that were so important. And certainly, things did not always go his way. Jesus didn't require people to conform to his way. He lived and taught and moved forward. So Jesus, the most important, most successful life that ever was, had to go through all sorts of poverty and sadness and difficulty. And if he's the way, the truth, and the life, can we be willing to do that too? I think one of the lines that catches us is, "Blessed are you who are now weeping, for one day you're going to laugh." It makes me think of a family in our parish that recently went through a horrific tragedy. So bad, I'm not even going to talk about it because it's too upsetting to talk about and it would be distracting. You wouldn't be able to think back on track for a while after I told you. But we know from loved ones and we know from the news, things can happen in life that are just overwhelming, unthinkable, so hard. And this one happened to them. And they're beloved people, very active in our church. They have not missed church this entire time since this happened. They are here week in and week out, sitting in the same spot they're always sitting in. And I've been so impressed with that because I know from experience that a lot of times when people are going through really hard things, they say, "Father, we need to lay low. You're not going to see us for a little while. We'll be back in the spring, but right now we can't go out in public. We're just going through so much. We can't get out of bed." And I would understand that. But this family is not approaching it that way. Don't get me wrong. They're overwhelmed by how hard this is. But there's something more going on. The day I was really blown away is when we had our annual gala for SMA back about a month ago when we were honoring Joe Kaczmarek. There they were, this whole family. There were like 6 members of this family there at that event, looking beautiful. And I went up to them and I said, "I'm so grateful you came. Thank you so much." And they smiled and said, "We wouldn't miss it." I watched as they had a good time that night. And I realized something. Faith is kind of like a bank account. It's kind of like an investment account. And this family has been making deposits for a long time. Little daily and weekly deposits into the account all the time. And now, at this point in their life, they have so much faith deposited, they're living off the interest. They're not dipping into the principal. They're living off of the interest. That faith is not going to get taken away or lost in what they're going through. There's no market crash that's going to take their nest egg. They've got it. They're using the interest to face their problems and their sorrows. Blessed are those who are now weeping, for one day they're going to laugh. I found myself thinking, what if instead of investing in this faith account, they had put their trust in money? What could they do? Maybe they could feel better by going to a nice vacation in Mexico this winter. That would help. No, it wouldn't. You know it wouldn't. Nothing would help. No jewelry can take away the bitterness of sorrow. But faith that's been invested can. It can help us find our way. So this week we're being asked, what are we investing in? Are we hoping that we're going to peak now, here on earth? Are we putting our efforts into peaking now? Are we putting a lot of effort and hope into life offering us money or gratification or popularity? Is that what our main goal is? Can we acknowledge that earth can only give us so much? There's no supernatural gifts that can be found in popularity or in money or in getting things to go our way. When I was teaching, there was a poster in my room that had been gifted to me, and I couldn't believe the wisdom of it. It was Native American wisdom. It came from a Native American wisdom teacher, and it said, only when the last tree of the forest has been cut down And when the last fish has been caught and taken from the stream, and only when the last waterway has been polluted and poisoned, only then will we finally realize that we can't eat money. That's how faith is too. What are we going to do with the money? What would we do? Would we eat the popularity, cook it up and eat it? We have the choice to put our investment wherever we wish. And we could want our best days to be here on earth. But here, everything is passing. And moths eat holes in our favorite sweaters. And things spoil and decay. So let's not peak here. Let's save the best days, like Jesus did, for those ahead of us.